The legal field is the first field that AI will be coming towards. And you see it, right? Like ChatGPT can build out agreements. They can send out letters.
You mentioned that you dropped out of college in '07. That's actually when I graduated college. So that's a cool coincidence. Successful nonetheless.
Right, you can go work with a franchisor where they say, hey, you got our logo now, go out and get them, right? Well, that's not the case over here. And it's not the case with franchisors. But we realized that we have no insurance training. And we didn't have insurance training because I'm in Los Angeles, we're a retail market. It was an unknown to us. Like, we didn't think we even needed it. It wasn't a thought in our mind. And then our Denver, Colorado location launched. There's no typical doll in the life of David Bitan. I'm blessed to have 2 babies at home. We have a 2.5-year-old named Ari, our oldest, a 1.5-year-old named Liam. We have a baby girl on the way due next month. So the hands are full.
Hello and welcome to the Roofing Industry Podcast. Today I have a very special guest with me, the first franchisor on the show, David Bitan from Bumble Roofing. David, welcome to the show, and I'm really excited to have you.
Sorry, thanks for having me. Thanks for the welcome.
Yep. So we'll get right started with this. I want to ask you a few questions about how your journey started as a franchisor in the roofing industry. Why don't you tell us about how did you start and how that journey went?
Yeah, so journey starts a long time ago. It started about 16 years ago when I decided to drop out of college and find my next path. And so I dropped out of college in 2007. So you can imagine during the Great Recession, a young kid without a college degree, what am I going to do? And so after several conversations, a family friend of mine introduced me to his friend that was a sales manager at a large home remodeling firm. He basically told me, recession, no recession, it makes no difference for us. We're hiring commission salespeople year round. And so grabbed that opportunity right away, hopped into commission sales in home services and home remodeling. That was the first kind of chapter of my career in this space. And so did that for 6 years, never found a place that really aligned with my values and aligned with my mission. And so eventually got to a place about 6 years later where I launched my own company. So I started off with full scale home remodeling, did it all from roofing to windows, kitchen remodeling, you name it. Customer wanted to buy a car, never happened, but I probably would have found a car as well. And so did that for a couple of years, but I realized pretty quickly we were a very successful company. At one point at our peak, we were doing $10 million in revenue. But I realized that what I was doing was not very scalable. It wasn't very scalable because we were selling everything that you can possibly think of in a home, right? And so in order to properly train salespeople, properly train your employees, scale and become experts in a field, you have to learn 300-400 different products, right? And so that's when I quickly realized that the model that I built is flawed if I really want to scale this company, right? I think scaling, in order to scale something properly, you have to make it cookie cutter. And so I ended up putting that business up for sale, sold it in 2018. And then I had a few months to think to myself. And while I was thinking to myself on what I wanted to get into next, I ended up going to a CarMax to purchase a car for my wife. And that's where my entire kind of mind shifted on customer experience and what that should look like in the home service world. And so I knew right then and there, I wanted to take that sales process. When I say sales process, just an easy sales process for a customer to purchase a home service, implement it into a trade. And so I looked at several different trades, obviously roofing being one of them. This was kind of history, right? I wanted to find a trade that was very fragmented and stuck in the past from a sales process and customer experience perspective. And roofing was the only one done. And so Bumble Roofing in 2019, did that for a couple of years. We launched our first location in Los Angeles, California. Became pretty successful pretty quick. I think the reason for that is due to our branding and to our easy sales process. And about 3 years in, I decided, hey, I want to grow this thing, right? I think it's time to finally start scaling. And so looked at several different paths to do that. Originally, I was thinking about build a chain until I learned that franchising and home services is something that I can start doing, right? I had no idea originally that home services even existed in the franchising space. And so when I learned that, I got very excited. So in 2022, started that franchising journey, trying to learn more. How can I figure this out? And through several conversations, I ended up deciding, you know what, I'm going to find a partner that can really help me scale this thing. And so after interviewing a couple different groups, private equity backed portfolio brands, I ultimately decided to move forward with Empower Brands. Empower Brands is one of the leaders in home service franchising. They own other brands like Jan Pro, which you may have heard of, Koala Insulation, Superior Fence and Rail, just to name a few. Decided to ultimately move forward with them and look back since. So since then, we have grown to 23 locations, covers 22 franchisees. agencies across the US, and the growth is headed to see where it continues.
I didn't imagine that you have 23 locations up and running. That's pretty cool. Are they mostly in the West Coast, or are they all over?
They're all over the map. The majority are towards the East Coast. We have a couple in Texas. We do have a few on the West Coast, so Boise, Idaho being one, Tacoma, Washington being another, and then a few up in the Colorado area. But most everything is Texas and eastward.
Pretty cool. You mentioned that you dropped out of college in 07. That's actually when I graduated college, so that's a cool coincidence. Successful nonetheless. Yeah, I mean, college is becoming more and more irrelevant as we go into the future of technology, but we'll see how the future holds. Say what again?
I think with AI, they're coming after the jobs that most people are going out and getting degrees for. It'll be in our lifetimes when we start seeing even fields that you need to go get masters in, doctorates and attorneys. Article years ago where it said that the legal field is the first field that AI will be coming towards. And you see it, right? Like ChatGPT can build out agreements. They can send out letters. They can, do so many different things. And on the medical side, doctors today use robots to perform surgery. So why would it not be in a place 10 years from now where most of the medical field is performed through AI and robotics? And so that's where I see it going. Luckily with our industry, when I say our industry, I'm talking specifically sales. I don't think AI is going to come for sales. I think AI will ever come for sales. And the reason being is because people do not want to buy from robots. People need an emotional attachment to what they're purchasing, especially when it comes to their home. That was one of the things that kind of led me to the path of wanting to franchise Bumble Roofing. Knew that plus a bunch of others, but I knew that by franchising Bumble Roofing, we would have a lot of interest because of AI and robotics and where that's going, and helping people understand that home service sales, whether it's roofing, windows, insulation, you name it, is something AI can't necessarily come for, because again, people buy based off of emotions and people want to buy.
Even the craftsmanship of the trade itself, I think that's going to be years before you have robots putting on roofs and tiles and understanding underlayments and even the basic engineering of the trade. It takes years to learn that. So and a robot taking that over, the slopes and the curves and all the intricacies of construction in general, not just roofing, is going to be a while before robots. So I think we're pretty safe in that regard for being in this industry. Yeah. So I want to ask you about the biggest differences between owning a franchise versus starting an independent roofing business. So I hear people all the time wanting to get into a roofing business. I talk to roofing owners that have just gotten in and they have no idea where they want to start. So how can being a franchisee for Bumble or any other franchisor help a business owner start their roofing business journey?
So I'll back up on the question first. I think one of the biggest differences is fast tracking to success and risk, right? When starting off a business from scratch, and I can tell you from my own experience, and not to say that you can't do it, right? There's plenty of people who have become just as successful as me, if not much more, by launching a roofing business from scratch. But when you launch something from scratch, there's a lot of unknown. Right? You're coming into an industry you know nothing about, and you're learning through trial and error. Trial and error at the end of the day is time and it's money, right? How much skin do you want in the game? Right? How long do you want to see yourself go from 0, right, to 1 million to 5 million to 10 million? What franchising does, it just fast tracks all of that, right? If you work with the right franchisor, you can go work with a franchisor where they say, hey, you got our logo now, go out and get them. Well, that's not the case over here. And it's not the case with franchisors. But what franchising really does, and all of our franchisees will say the same, is it takes you from signature franchise agreement to opening a business, if you do it the right way, within 3 to 4 months. When I say opening a business, it's not just opening doors and figuring it out. Yes, there's still things you'll have to figure out along the way, learn everything in a matter of a couple of months, but you're still at a point where you have a business that can go out and send proposals properly. You have your website up, you have your marketing campaigns live and running, you have support daily from people who have been through this before that help you fast track everything. You have a brand that you can go into the market with that, yes, with Bumble Roofing, we're not quite there yet, but eventually become a brand that is spread across the entire nation and becomes that house. With that brand and with a platform like Empower Brands, you're also getting certain partnerships, right? So I can't talk too much about our partnerships, but we have partnerships with big box stores that we're able to provide leads from. We have partnerships with vendors so that you come in, and you probably know this from your experience. If you were to go in right now with Nazar Roofing that just opened today into an ABC Supply is going to charge you top dollar for roofing material because you haven't proved yourself yet. When you walk in with a Bumble Roofing franchise, even if it's it's your first day in business, you're getting top tiered pricing through pre-negotiated conversations that we've had in order for you to get that. You get credit lines and credit terms that you wouldn't get otherwise. You get financing programs so that you're able to offer financing to your customers that most financing programs usually take a year or two for you to start offering to your customers. So it's a trial and error that we've been through before. It's the playbooks, and it's mostly, again, it's fast tracking your way to success and having a lot less risk up front.
There's a lot of things you mentioned on there, and I was going to ask you a few questions along those lines anyway, so you answer them pretty extensively. Financing is a big deal, getting those prices that are competitive with the market, because obviously being part of a franchise, you have better negotiated rates from the franchisor, and then fast tracking is a big part of that too. I'm sure you provide training for your franchisees. Can you elaborate a little bit on that without getting too deep into the weeds?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the process is, usually franchisee comes on board, signs an agreement. First 4 to 8 weeks, which is very dependent on them. In some cases, state licensing laws usually is onboard. So you'll go through an onboarding weekly call where our onboarding specialist will go over the tasks that we have to take care of, that you have to take care of in order to properly open your business. Usually about a month or two after signing, you'll come down to our Richmond headquarters. So we have our entire Power Brands campus out in Richmond, Virginia. We have about a 2-week training out there. Some of it is on the field with our flagship location in Richmond, Virginia. Some of it is in the actual classroom training all day. So it's, everything from sales training to product training, enough to get you on the field again to be able to propose and to do some damage. Roofing, as you know, Nazir, it's ever changing. Education is never ending. It's constantly introducing yourself to new material and reintroducing yourself to old material that you already know. I always make a joke that I'm 16 years in. I'm lucky if I know 25% of what I need to be talking about. But it's the 25% is enough to get me through to build a multi-million-dollar roofing business. The good thing about our industry and for companies like Bumble Roofing is that if you do the service properly, you can become very successful, right? I always make a joke that if you answer the phones in time, if you send a proposal, not send a proposal in 7 days or in 1 day, if you just send a proposal, if you show up and if you clean up after you finish your project, you're already better than half. Fortunately for us, a lot of our competition makes it very easy. Just be human, pretend like it's your home, and have a much better shot at success.
Do the basics right. I have these conversations too with our client or business owners that you got to answer the phone, man. Like that, number one. If you don't have time to answer the phone, then assign someone or at least use a AI voice agent so that someone answers the phone and then it gets rerouted or they get a text message. All these pieces of technology are super inexpensive to use now with automation and AI. At least have that. And then obviously time to market. So if you're sending a quote 2 days after you receive a request, that's no longer a lead. They're not warm anymore and they're not going to respond to you. It's just as simple as that. Everybody's got access to ChatGPT. Everybody's got access to Google. So they just search for the next business over and then they'll just talk to them because they're just available to talk to them. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I think I can't keep saying this enough and we can't keep saying this enough, but this is one of the things that people get wrong is that they think that the leads are the problem, but in reality, sometimes the leads are not the problem, and it's really your conversions that's the problem. It's really your touch points, your follow-ups that's the problem. Yeah, so and that will make you better than half the competition, absolutely. What steps should someone take if they're interested in buying a roofing franchise? It doesn't have to be specifically Bumble Roofing, but how does one go about, buying a roofing franchise if they're interested?
The first step is, really coming to an understanding of should I go the franchising route or not? And what am I getting from the franchisor? So doing your research about the franchisor, I think, is the most important. Coming down and meeting the team, coming to Discovery Day, we call it E-Day for Empower Day, where you get to spend a couple of days with us out in Richmond, see what we're all about, right? Meet our marketing department, meet our bookkeeping department, meet our software department, meet our ops team, and understand what you're paying for, right? At the end of the day, you're paying a royalty, whatever franchise you end up going with. You want to make sure that you're getting the playbooks. You want to make sure that you're getting the support. And so I think that's one. The second thing that every franchisee should be doing when looking into a franchise system is validation. Just like a homeowner would call past clients to see if they were happy with their roofing, a franchisee or a should be getting a list from their franchisor of existing franchisees and understand what their experience looks like. Those would be the top two. Obviously, there's several other things that they should be looking at. One of them are the franchise disclosure document, and just really feeling 100% comfortable with understanding that your franchisor is not your business partner. They are are your support system. They are there to help you fast track. And it is important to understand that you, at the end of the day, are going to be opening up a small business. And, I mentioned this just now at our annual conference. 20% of small businesses, not just in roofing and anything, go out of business in their first year. That number is slightly lower in franchising world because of the support and the playbooks that you get. But 20% overall do go out of business in their first year. And so understanding that before you even open a business, I think is the most important thing. Yes, the validation. Yes, coming down to discovery day, but understanding that you need to drive business for your franchise system and that there's no magic pill, right? You're building a business from scratch. You're coming into a brand new market and it's going to take 12 to 24 months, regardless of the industry, to get to a point where you start seeing consistent success. That we've seen franchisees make money in their first year. We've seen franchisees ramp up a lot quicker than what we expected. But really, whether it's building a business from scratch or building a franchise system, it's really 12 to 24 months in where you can really say, okay, I've just built something great and this is here for long term.
Let me take the conversation a little bit of a different direction. So I want to ask you, what does a typical day of David Bitan look like? And just let's talk about that a little bit because you have 23 other franchisees to look over. I'm sure other business stuff that you have to take care of, your personal life. How does that go in a day in the life of?
There's no typical day in the life of David Bitan. I'm blessed to have 2 babies at home. We have a 2.5-year-old named Ari, our oldest, a 1.5-year-old named Liam. We have a baby girl on the way due next month. So the hands are full with a pregnant wife and 2 babies at home. And plus this is another baby of mine, right? Bumble Roofing, although I successfully started a roofing company and built a very successful, one of the larger roof replacement companies in Los Angeles a couple years back, we still haven't made our mark in the franchising world. Yes, we have 23 locations. Yes, we have some successful franchisees, but the goal is to get to a point where every franchisee can see that success and we become that household name. So this is a newborn for me, right? So a day in the life of David, it's all over the map. Some days I have days where I'm on podcasts and having different conversations with different industry leaders and speakers like yourself. A lot of the days are revolved around franchisee support. Luckily, I have a great team that I could take my hat off to that kind of drives and steers the entire ship. I'm more of the visionary. So my goal is to find the tools, the vendors, the communities that we can become a part of to help ensure and start driving more of that success. For example, we pilot different things. We have different partnerships. One of the partnerships that we currently have that we're piloting is Go Nano Roof Rejuvenation. That was a partnership that was a long time coming that we were working on to get for our franchisees. Another national partnership that we have is we're part of the Lowe's Provider Program. So my job is to push Lowe's into getting us into more stores across our entire franchise system. What that does for us is it helps us get in touch with their sales associates and build booths inside of Lowe's stores to generate business. And then finally, most recently, we joined Adam Benzman's Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance. So just different things like that in order to help our franchisees succeed. And like I said, we have the team behind me that is on the daily and weekly calls with our franchisees. Hey, where are your budgets at? What did you do this week? How many leads did you get? How can we drive more business for you on a more granular level? But yeah, that's, I think you contacted me over a month ago to schedule something with you. And this was the first available slot I had that could fit into your schedule nonstop. It's nonstop. I lose sleep at night in there on what our franchisees are doing. I've bootstrapped the roofing business. I know how hard starting a business can be. And so for me, it's like day in and day out, just doing anything I possibly can to ensure our franchisees have top of class everything, right? Top of class marketing, top of class software, top of class pricing from the vendors, top of class vendors. We're not always perfect at it and we're not always 100% successful, but knowing that we're not, I think is what drives us every single day to get better.
Wonderful. Good luck on the newborn. I
Thank you.
have the one and that keeps me busy. So you got your father, well, almost 3, 2.5, I would say.
Yeah.
Third coming on the way. That's awesome. It's a joy. It really gives us purpose.
100%.
All right. Well, one other question I would like to ask you, touching on along the lines of being a franchisee, and you mentioned that a couple of years until they start seeing the results of or the fruits of their labor. I want to ask this question on behalf of all those that are considering a franchise business, may it be roofing or other construction related business. If they're going all in and they're maybe starting from scratch, they don't really have any idea about the industry or construction in general, and that may be their only income source, so to speak. because they're really trying to make it. What advice would you have for them? Because you mentioned that it might take a year or two to actually start seeing the returns of their labor. So how can they survive off of that? Can they actually make a living off of that if they start from scratch?
Let me back up. When I say a year or two into seeing your fruits of your labor, it can happen much sooner. We build out models for it to happen usually between month 7 and month 12. When I say a year to 2 is I say that because in order to successfully ramp up a business, you don't want to take money. Now, if you have to take money home, go for it. I'm nobody to say like, hey, keep the money in the business and keep reinvesting. But if you reinvest, your chances to build a system that grows every single year and consistently brings a much larger net home is going to be a lot higher. You don't want to drain the business out. And this is any business, whether it's a franchise system, not a franchise system, roofing, restaurant, you name it. You don't want to drain the business out by taking money home. Be very frugal in the first year to 18 months and careful on money that you take home. Even if you absolutely kill it, even if you come into a system and you went from saying, I'm going to do 500,000 in revenue my first year and you did times 10, you did 5 million, which is possible in home services and in roofing. Even if you did that, find a way to keep reinvesting into the business. So go back to your question on building it from scratch and needing to take some sort of salary home. I think obviously it makes it a lot harder when you're doing it from scratch because you're going to go through a lot of trial and error that most franchisees will not. My first year in business, I knew nothing about commercial and we jumped into a commercial project which probably shouldn't have touched. It was a big low slope roof, about 30,000 square feet. Long story short, it started raining after we demoed the roof and we had one of the biggest insurance claims that I've ever seen in my 16 years of being in the industry. And that was a huge moment. First of all, that gave me anxiety that I've never had in the past. It gave me anxiety because I knew that that could have closed my business down if I didn't have the proper insurance in place. And it was a huge, I wouldn't say turning point, but a drawback because it held me back from a lot of other things. My focus for those 4 or 5 months was just this specific commercial project. And I wasn't focusing on sales. I wasn't focusing on marketing. Like I shut everything down. And that wouldn't have happened if I came into a franchise. At least I don't think it would, because I recommend to our franchisees, first of all, you're not getting into any commercial in your first year, right? Until you become comfortable enough and have enough knowledge on what you should be doing. But second of all, let's say you do. Now we know that if it's a low slope roof, and it's a commercial roof, you do it in sections. You don't tear off a 30,000 square foot roof at once. And so although we check weather and want to make sure that weather is going to be fine, there's no rain coming in, we had rain that literally came out of nowhere that shouldn't have came in. I think when starting off a business from scratch, we talked about being frugal and reinvesting into your business. You're going to have to be a lot more frugal because there's going to be things that you're going to have to figure out on your own. You're going to be paying more. When it comes to materials, you're going to be paying more than most people. When it comes to financing, you probably can't offer financing. So guess what? You can't pull out draws on financing and you're going to have to wait to finish a project and get paid by your customer. You may run into certain customers, which can happen in franchising, can happen in building from scratch, that don't pay you on time, but it becomes a lot harder when you have to put all this cash up front. The great thing about franchising or buying an existing business is that you can go through financing. You can get SBA financing where you put as little as 20% down. So what you could do with SBA financing also is you can build in your capital. Right? I want to build in a $10,000 salary per month for my first 12 months. I'm building that into the SBA financing, which I can't do if I'm building a business from scratch. If I'm building a business from scratch, nobody's going to come give me financing to start a business and an idea that I have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you have like amazing credit, but even then, who's going to give you credit or loans if you're just starting out?
They want to see proof of concept, right? And so with like franchising or an existing business, they have proof of concept.
Absolutely. 100% makes sense. Yeah, there is a lot of advantages. I'm getting schooled on this show too. I had a lot of misconceptions and those got taken care of, definitely.
I think the biggest misconception, sorry to cut you off, Nazar.
You're fine.
That people have with advertising in general is, and I'd like to make it transparent on this call, is people think it's an easy button. People think I buy into a franchise system, whether it's an established brand or a brand like Bumble that's only 23 locations in, and I invest money and I'm going to start seeing money right away. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. You still have to put in the work. You still have to put in the hours. The difference is the fast tracking. The difference is the risk. The difference is, hey, I know from day one what CRM I'm going to be on, what marketing campaigns I should start following. I have a brand that's, following me. I have support every single day. That's the biggest difference. But the work is still the same. Just putting more effort into one thing as opposed to trying to figure things out.
Yeah, I think it's pretty standard for any business, any franchise business, so to speak. Like if you went and bought a McDonald's or a Subway, you're still going to go through training. You're still going to have to service customers. You're still going to have to buy the product, buy the ingredients, and train your staff to the right portions and whatnot. So that is pretty standard procedure. But I feel like there is is definite responsibility on the franchisor, which would be you in this case, to be properly guiding the franchisee in the direction that they need to go, specifically when they're brand new. So I can't say the names, but I have heard plenty of stories where the franchisee has tried everything to get the information from the franchisor. And again, I'm not going to mention any specific names, but they have not been able to successfully delineate or distribute that knowledge. And they have failed because of that reason. So how do you combat that? You mentioned that you have great teams, but just in short, if you could mention how that challenge could be mitigated for franchisors.
Yeah, that really goes back to culture and goes back to people and understanding that we're all human, right? What Empower does really well, what Bumble does really well is the support. If you decide to come into a Bumble Roofing franchise and do the validation calls, you may have franchisees, right, that in the first year when we started, we didn't have every single play. When we were 6 months in, I remember we launched our first location out in Denver, one of our first store markets out in Denver, Colorado. And guess what? We realized that we have no insurance training. And we didn't have insurance training because I'm in Los Angeles, we're a retail market. It was an unknown to us. Like, we didn't think we even needed it. It wasn't a thought in our mind. And then our Denver, Colorado location launches. And if somebody ever speaks to her, she'll tell you guys, would you do it again? She'll say yes, but she may have waited a little bit longer until we have the playbooks in place. Long story short is we went out, we figured it out, put in some capital to make sure we had the insurance playbooks. We've now brought in somebody on board, our first franchise business coach, who has about 12 years roofing experience in storm markets. So I think the number one thing we have going for us is the support. And this is across the entire Empower Brands platform. Is we understand that this business is a people business. And in order for our franchisees to succeed, we have to pick up the phone. We have to answer the emails. We can always get better. We're not perfect. Like, there's sometimes times where franchisees may wait a day more than two. Obviously, if it's something that's an emergency, they could always find me on the phone, but which is usually never the case. It's all about support, right? It's all about actually caring. And it's not just about, hey, let's sell some franchises and get that initial franchise fee. We're in the business for long term. Power Brands is partnered up with PE-backed private equity. And in order for them to continue in that path and to keep growing, partner up with bigger private equity companies, you have to show that you're successful. And you're not successful. You cannot be successful in franchising if you're not supporting your franchisees.
I want to throw in a small plug in here, if that's okay with you. And for someone to actually join the Bumble Roofing franchise, I'm sure there's a vetting process. What are 2 or 3 key things that they would need in order for them to apply, be a franchisee for Bumble?
Well, anybody can apply, but we don't accept just anybody. So number one, the way I look at it is kind of like hiring anybody. Hiring an employee, hiring a subcontractor, partnering up with a vendor, is what's that initial gut feeling? And that's why it's important that we spend time together, right? We have a couple of calls like this with myself and the rest of my team. Then you'll come out to Virginia. We'll spend a couple of days together. We'll go out to dinner. We'll have drinks. We'll spend an entire day in an office and go over everything that we do and our entire offering. And it's really just getting that feeling of the person. We're not Chick-fil-A. We're not going to put you through 2 years of training at a location before we offer, less than 0.5% of applicants a Chick-fil-A. Not in the business to put you through that. But we want to get to know you. Had situations where people have come down, they have their checkbook ready, they're ready to sign on. We end up sitting down with the team and we say, hey, this may not be the best fit. And we may have been wrong. It's possible we may have been wrong, but just that initial feeling, we said it may not be the right fit. So I think that's one. Number two, one of the things that red flag for me is the thought of being able to bite off a lot more than you can chew. I think my experience is what helps me when it comes to this. Is I think a different brand president that hasn't sat in my seat of launching and owning a business in the roofing space will just bring anybody on. Like, if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm going to do $100 million in my first year, and they're like, oh, yeah, come on. Like, for me, it's like, no, we want to make sure that you can successfully run this business. If you come in and you say, I want the entire territory of Florida and I'm going to do things that nobody's ever seen before in the roofing industry, that's a big red flag for us, and we're probably going to say no. But really, those are the top 2 things. We don't look for roofing experience. I think the roofing experience comes with time. We're going to teach you that during training. We have training modules. We built out a learning management software online called Bumble University, where you can always go on and you can learn different things. We're part of the NRCA, so you have your training modules on there. We're part of the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance community, so you have a bunch of training modules on there. So the training is never ending. And then, of course, we're a subcontractor model, which makes it even easier. You have professionals who are actually installing the materials that you're able to call on the field and ask them certain questions. And that's been a big part of our entire model, is are the subcontractors that we wouldn't be able to do what we do today. So again, to answer your question, what we're really looking for is just good people driven people, somebody that has a good business plan in place. We do request business plans, somebody who has the financials in place as well, and somebody that understands what they're getting themselves into. Owning a business is a roller coaster. It's like the stock market. If you not handle being in the stock market for more than a month, you're not going to be able to handle on your own business. The same thing. You're going to have days, and I've had plenty of these days where I wanted to jump off a roof, but when I look at the big picture, that's where I can sit down and actually be proud of what I've done and say, you know what, I would do this a million times over again. And that's how all of our franchisees feel. Again, most of them are very early on. We only started franchising, or our first location really opened just about a year ago after LA. And so I think the conversation will change a couple years down the road, but overall, everybody's very driven right now, and everybody understands the bigger picture, the most important part when launching your own business and becoming successful.
Do you think that it's a good idea or not a good idea for someone who's all the check boxes and wants to own a roofing franchise for them to start multiple locations at once? Have you done that before with a business owner, or is it?
When you say multiple locations, are you talking like locations that are very spread out, or are you talking about multiple territories? Because our territory, so like for reference, our competition's territory is 50,000 homes per territory. Ours is 100,000 homes per territory. What you know, Nazar, the average percentage of roofs that get replaced is 7% annually. That's just replacements. That doesn't account for maintenance. That doesn't account for repairs. That doesn't account for add-ons like gutters, solar, insulation. 7% of roofs get re-roofed annually. And so if you do the math, 100,000 homes, that's 7,000 homes? 700 homes. Yeah, use my math. Yeah, that was bad. It's 700 homes. You really, 7%, give me 5% of that, 10% of that in my first year. Like, I don't need more than that in my first year in business. You know what I mean? And again, that's only for re-roofing. And so what was the question again? I kind of geared off topic over there. I apologize.
What I was trying to understand is, let's say I want to own a roofing franchise with Bumble territories.
Yeah,
I come on to you and I say, hey, David, I like these territories or these areas. And maybe I don't even live on those states. Maybe it's outside of where I live, but is someone able to do that and build 2-3 different locations at once?
Yeah,
or do they have to start?
From our experience, I say ours, I'm talking about Empower Brands, people on the board that have taken companies like ServiceMaster, Mosquito Squad, and some other big brand names international. And from our experience, just selling is not going to do anything for you, franchisee. We want you to be successful. So Bumble, the maximum territory that we will sell you is 4 upfront. Now, if you're successful or you have a track record, and we'll sell you more later on, but in the beginning, we won't sell you more than 4. And if you want to buy 4, you best come with a great business plan. We're not going to just sell 4 to anybody. So usually the sweet spot is between 2 to 3. We're not going to sell out of state currently. So like you have to live where you are. And I think the reason, well, actually, let me back up. That's not necessarily true. We will sell out of state if you have an executive model business plan in place and we meet the GM that will be running it for you. We don't want you to just buy territory and never launch. So we want to meet the people who will be running it for you. But in regards to territory, it's a maximum of 4 right now. We don't want to sell you 10 different territories. There's more than enough business to do in a territory of 200, 300, 400,000 homes, even like I mentioned just now, 100,000 homes, and build your business that way. And as you grow, the goal for everybody is for you to buy more territory. We want you to do it successfully. There's franchisors out there that will sell you 15 territories. Yeah, why not? You're writing me a big paycheck. But guess what? Usually within a year or two, those franchisees and those franchisors fail because they didn't see the bigger picture and they didn't understand that in order for you to be successful as a franchisor, your franchisees have to successfully launch and ramp up.
Speaking of big picture, where can people find you online, on social media, and on the internet?
Me personally, you can find me on, I'm not very active on Twitter, but find me on Twitter again. Well, my LinkedIn is my first name, last name. I'm pretty sure my Twitter is as well. Again, I'm not very active on there. In regards to franchising, if you're looking to in your journey in franchising with Bumble, BumbleRoofingFranchising.com is where you can start that process. You can also visit Empower Brands website, which I'm pretty sure is EmpowerBrandsFranchising.com or EmpowerFranchising.com. I can get back to you on that. And if you're looking for a new roof across the entire US, a roof repair, roof maintenance, or just roofing inspection, we have locations spanning from Southern California to Boise, Idaho, Tacoma, Washington, all through Texas, Austin, Dallas, Houston, and a bunch more on the East Coast. You can visit us at BumbleRoofing.com and find the location nearest you.
Thank you so much. This has been swell. I will drop all the links in the description. So guys, feel free to check out BumbleRoofing.com or Bumble Roofing Franchising if you're interested in that model. This has been so informational for me. I feel like I totally got coached myself. Thank you so much for your time, David. Really appreciate you coming on the show. And hopefully this will pave the way for many others that are looking to start a franchisor business, either in roofing or construction, or people that are just trying to start a roofing business as a franchisee, whether it be Bumble or any other franchise model. I hope this will encourage and educate a lot of those that are looking in that direction. Thanks so much for your time, and please like and follow us if you like this episode, and if you like podcasts like these in the future. I would love to have your feedback in the comments. David, thank you so much again for your time.
Nazir, thank you so much. Have a great day.